in the southeast, I guess, the sport demand is a little bit different. Or,
Yeah, well, the NCAA dropped boxing as a sport back in the 70s, and this is a club sport, but it's become a national club sport for a number of schools. So that's that's where we're at. They're part of the USA Boxing, so they're sanctioned through the national organization. Um, so anyway, um, what else is new with you?
yeah, for, well, here's already at my second place. So, I told you that I was already moved up to Gainesville, so when I come down here now, I was actually getting just deal with friends in that, but we don't use it enough to bring kids up north. So we really ran out of the season for 3, 4, 5 months to cover expenses and find somebody that likes to do it every year. It's very high advantage. I haven't been my players races yet for the usually kind of middle of the day on Thursday. So what time do you plan on leaving your area by car if you go?
Hey, 4FL and 3IM. You're a little bit, your audio's a little bit tunneled. Almost sounds like you're speaking in a empty room with an echo. And it's understandable, but very much distracting. AA4FL and 3IM.
Yeah, there are course with closed doors not before I really just see if I can open up one of the doors might be doing like I don't know what I'm here right now. Well, I'm trying to make my plane reservation. I don't know if I want to bother renting a car if we're going back and forth together. I was wondering if I can't fly to an airport like Columbus or somewhere in between a place where you can just pick me up and drop me off at the airport on Thursday and Sunday. Is that a possibility?
That's definitely a possibility. Let's email each other about that and let me know where you're thinking about. AA4FL and 3IM.
Absolutely, Jesus. Right now, one room will be fine, so leaving it back and forth is not leaving anybody else in the meeting and I can get out of there on Sunday to catch a flight back home, take care of my daughter in South Florida, so I'm trying to that's what I'm trying to coordinate all these airplanes. Thank you all, I will do my email. You see that, here on the net. Let's see if anybody else is here early for the Medical Language Radio Council digital voice net. This is AA4FL. We'll be back control of the hour of here. And that, I'm going to do a thorough check and I see a few people on that water. Go ahead and make a call.
WA with the X-ray. WKAP. 5 RCF.
USL and 5 RCF. WJB, WA1EXA. Good morning to you, Jeff, Andy, Mark. Nice to have you on board. We just get a NetLogger message, which, depending on how many logs the NetLogger from Hilton, he's not going to participate directly in streaming. But then you get your robotic systems simulator doing his recertification of robotic surgery. So he does have the YouTube streaming already remotely. And glad to have him continue that service. And thanks for all you do, Jeff. I see you got the audio server up. Is that correct?
We're streaming. I have not turned the recorder on. I'll do that at 10 sharp.
Sure. So I wasn't sure if you meant you to start the recording at the top of the hour on the Netflix. Thank you for getting it on and getting it streaming. We appreciate that. By the way, Jim, how often do you check the Jefferson mailing address? Over.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Your QRZ mailing address, I think it was Jefferson Avenue, Jefferson Street. How often do you actually check the mail there? Over?
I go by about once a week to feed the tortoises and get the mail. Sometimes I'm a little late reading through everything. I've got a stack of it that I found I'm going through today or tomorrow. We still use Jefferson Avenue as our mailing address, but we spend most of our time either in the French Quarter or out here at the swamp in 5RTF.
Sure, so that's what I suspected, but I went ahead and mailed mailed something to you, really, and I did it to home mailing address, so be on the lookout for it next time you stop by there, probably. I hadn't gotten there until a day or two ago, if I even find out. I see you got J3017 with us, Stephen. I'm going to check you out. We're going to start with that here momentarily. Maybe we're This is L4 Foxtrot Lima today operating from Delray Beach, Florida. And I'm going to open up a door here in a second to see if we can get the sound being not so much of an echo chamber for NCIM's comments. So just let it go.
WJD, turn your gain down just a little bit as well. Do both. I think it'll help. WJD.
WJDAA4, is that a little better?
Yes, quite a bit. And you could probably go down one more notch on your TV, you know, on your mic gain, just drop it wherever you're at, 4, 5, 6. Just drop it 1 or at most 2, and I think you'll be very acceptable at that point. You're way better already.
QSL, so AA4, hopefully everyone's got me better now. Sorry for that. And today's net is a weekly one session, a weekly net. We floated the topic on the Google Listener and Google Group for the Minority Radio Council, talking about Omicron variant BA2 and a little bit about the monitoring of variants and subvariants and the international team that does that and the status of what we're all hearing in the public venue and what our interpretations it means for our local communities today. Let me let it drop on. This is a direct net from Medical Image Radio Council with myself, JAA4FL, as net controls and we direct traffic through me. We're operating on the 1-minute rate, which is a wonderful service with transcoding servers that allows us to all talk to each other, regardless of the message that we ran on to their servers. So thank you to them for the technical expertise and the dedication to keep it working properly in an ever-changing and complicated digital world. And because we are on the service, just realize that some of us are radio, some of us are coming through MP sticks, USB sticks, some of us are coming through hotspots from HDs and repeaters and many different modalities that allow time for this entire system to sync. So the technology works with optimum capability. So pause after you transmit or after the person in front of you transmits, don't tell me. Give it a second for everything to sync before you key up and line up. And if you do pause a second before you speak, that will assist greatly in our ability to have successful transmission. Let me let it drop on. You do not have to be a Marco member to participate in the net. We're not limited to the subject that we floated on the listener. So as we do our relevant discussions, as people check in, please feel free to introduce additional topics or request them, and we'll make a list of those and have a subsequent roundabout. We're going to start with the primary subject of the event today. First, of course, we not having to be a Marco member. You also do not have to check in if you do not want to participate through checking in and conversation. You're welcome to listen, but it's still be helpful to check in just so we know you're there, and will help us to direct the conversation to others that may not be in the health-related field. Drop on. Once again, this is AA4FL, the Medical Image Radio Council Digital Voice Net. Are there any stations that have emergency or priority traffic for the net? If so, make your call this time. None heard, no emergency traffic heard. Are there stations that are on limited time today that we can certainly have you go, first with the conversations, or if you're mobile and feel that you may lose your connection, let us know now. Make your call 881. Okay, for everyone that's checked in is a Medical Image Radio Council member, and I have 3 check-ins. 7, my son, PY2BBQ, who will be monitoring later. He's got a recording on YouTube, and he'll be reviewing the conversation. He's doing some hospital training now. And 3IF, who's happy to have activists after hiatus of boxing competition for the MCA, not being in it, but being is certainly very interested participant in watching. And 5RTF, WJAV, WA1EXA, and J3LCT. Thank you for being with us today. Are there any other stations that would like to do a check-in? Please make your call 884FL at this time. no additional sections heard and keep on the correct when I said about NCAA. I think Puzzle, as you mentioned, Velocity, which is kind of like what Rugby is every year. You have little teams, not actually NCAA participation teams, but all of us still connected to the schools and things like that. And today, Keith is going to be first on the list for discussion, and I received some email with talking about the technical advisory group for COVID-19 and the evolution of the virus. And of course, there's a lot in the last month that we've heard about the recent evolution of the virus in some very fashion. So I'll let you conduct the conversations. I can give you guys really have one thing.
Well, we are not having any significant problem with COVID in our county. As a matter of fact, we're pretty much wide open now, except for when you go to the hospital, you have to have a face mask on. But the new variant may present some problems, although it doesn't seem to be spreading quite as fast as the previous variant. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. Traveling wise, when we were in Connecticut, they were pretty well open. Masks weren't required. In Bristol, but they were required in Hartford. So there's a little bit of a difference in similar areas in the states. But Pennsylvania is fairly well wide open, so those are my comments. N3IM, back to AA4FL.
Yes, thank you, Keith. We got probably a number of times this weekend, very little mask wearing based on local case counts. That was very appropriate. As you said, in Pennsylvania, it doesn't seem to be a local problem as of now. The question will it turn back and become so? Because it's already happening in the UK and on continents of Europe and elsewhere, and it seems to be spreading fairly rapidly. So not from a scientific standpoint, from looking at a particular study, but from reading online and seeing the effectivity was 1.5 times more than Omicron severe BA1. Very serious. So there seems to be easier to catch, not necessarily more virulent, but when you take into account that boosters, a lot of us are 4 or 5 months out already, or perhaps more on boosters, and the Omicron tends to have many more, much more capability of interacting and infecting cells because of the number of ways to interact and connect. More so than the Delta, and it's going to happen. So it's just a matter of communities and the amount of, I suppose, the amount of vaccination in the community and whether or not people do take additional efforts in social distancing. We can talk about that in that context. Do you have any other follow-up comments to what I just mentioned? Keith, go ahead. That's right on AA4.
N3IM with AA4FL in the group. I have a question just to toss out there as to how many people think a fourth booster is necessary, or if they've had more than the initial, or fourth shot, I mean, if they've had more than the initial 2 shots in the booster, do they feel another booster is necessary? This is N3IM back to A84 at the Helmet Group.
Thank you for that follow-up question, Keith. I'll be the first to comment on it, and everybody's subsequent as you're making your presentation. Please include a response to that particular line of questioning from Keith. On my end, I don't know when it will be beneficial. If it currently is absolutely beneficial, I don't think you want to have immunity fatigue, but I would say based upon what we're reading, there's going to come a point where it is. I seem to remember reading some of the data from Israel that said it wasn't necessarily it boosted numbers, but not necessarily prevented disease. But I think it's a great segue into a greater conversation as these teams are monitoring the evolution of the virus, and they're making recommendations. Those recommendations sound based upon science and true experience in local communities. Because if you look at the composition community, they're from all over the world, and then on a personal note, and I'm probably about 4 months out from the booster, I'm going to Europe the end of next month, and I'm hoping to get a fourth shot before I go. Really, currently you've got to be testing before you depart Spain all the way back to the United States. So you have to have a rapid test done before you leave. I prefer to be negative. I don't want to get stuck there waiting to show in the absence of a positive. So from a personal standpoint, it's more pragmatism. I know there's plenty of individuals out there that don't seroconvert no matter how many they get. So everybody has to know a little bit about themselves. There's special circumstances. I don't think we can necessarily group everyone together. If you're just hanging around a local community without any rates or any evidence of spread, I don't see where the risk necessarily necessitates the booster. That's probably a personal choice as far as my opinion, and that's just my opinion. I do feel uncomfortable when I'm in small towns in the deep south where I know the vaccination rate is very low, because I don't know the actual spread rate in that community. I suspect that maybe one that hasn't. We go on the next person on board 75 RPM collision.
Hey, you caught me fishing. I was checking crab traps and pulling a line in. Really don't have a whole lot to contribute. I haven't had much to do with any of the COVID stuff. Our practice in psychiatry has settled back into the patterns that we had prior to the pandemic. I don't think that there's a whole lot going on in psychiatry related to the pandemic at this point in time in 5RTF.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you being here. Happy grabbing on. All of yours is grab for me. I was going to get blue grab. Enjoy it, huh? You guys are living in an idyllic environment there out in the small upward river, whichever you prefer to call it. Good having you with us. And WJD here, this message about beginning hopefully talking quieter or whatever she's beginning again. You next on the list here, WJD as well.
Well, good morning, everybody on the net. Hopefully you're reading me okay. As far as the COVID Omicron, I did a little statistical stuff to look at, and I have statistics primarily from newspapers, LA Times, was showing some of the Omicron BA2 rates. February 27th to March 7th, I think it was. It was 14%. The week before that, it was only 6.4%. And in the Southwest U.S. total, this included Hawaii, California, Arizona, and Nevada. The recent ones, this is only a week or 10 days old, were in the 40% range. The overall U.S. rate's 35%. Northeastern U.S. greater than 50%. Some as high as 63, 64. As far as the virus itself, it is apparently much more contagious, and we kind of knew that. Apparently, if you've had the regular Omicron, you have some short-term immunity that will get protected from this thing. Other data that I found, UK has had about an increase in hospitalization by 17%. And there's significant concern overall about the fact that Congress has not refunded or enacted the funding bill for the paying for the shots, COVID care, and for the testing as well. So, as far as worldwide, I'm going to wait for time. Definitely Omicron BA2 is the most prominent strain. It's worse in Southeast Asia, followed by Eastern Mediterranean, then Africa, and Western Pacific, Europe, Latin America. They didn't include the U.S. on there, but it's obviously on there. Apparently, there's an amino acid difference in the spike protein. That's what makes it different from the standard Omicron. And less problems with loss of smell and taste than the standard Omicron as well. Of course, many are asymptomatic, which I think we knew all along. So that's about all I have. As far as the fourth shot, I've seen data saying it did cause a boost in the immunity, and I saw one study where it said it did, but it only lasted 3 weeks. I think one more data is needed. I suspect that's what will have to occur before the improvement. So, back to you, Jay, from WJAP.
Thank you. I understand my audio was possible here in a few times, so I will talk softly. Hopefully that's just the echo operating right now. WA1USA. Mark, go ahead.
WA1EXA. Hello to everybody. Well, I guess I can speak from personal experience here. My wife and I both contacted positive with COVID now about 4 weeks ago. It's still kind of holding on, which seems to be its only residual effect. It still has, we still have a little bit of a cough and still a little bit of congestion. It's probably at the point where it's more like a head cold. But it seems to be those kind of symptoms are still hanging around. It don't appear to be infective at all. We did. I can give you a little report on the Cape. I hold one. As far as the Cape Cod or southeastern Massachusetts and Boston area, the hospitalizations are down. There has not been any increase in that. We still see declines in all the statistics. So we have not seen any issues as far as people getting very sick with it. I did go, my wife and I did take a trip into New York City this past week to see a Broadway show. And I can report that in the city, they still are requiring masks at all the Broadway shows. Masks, and you have to prove that you've been vaccinated with the full complement. And you have to wear a mask at any public transportation, including taxis, the train that we took, buses, all of that requires masking. You don't need a mask to walk around on the outside, but once you get inside, most places still demand it. That's what we've seen in the day that we were in New York. Hold one. It appears that most people really aren't being concerned, or at least what I'm seeing or hearing, don't seem to be concerned about getting the new strain. It's just that they're concerned about how bad it is when you get it. So it seems like we're just going. There's a sentiment to go from avoidance of infection to just mitigating the infection when you get it. I think it's taking that kind of a turn. That may be part of the process of going from a pandemic to an endemic, and maybe just human nature says I don't want to think about it anymore. But we seem to have that going on in the local area, and local news, and what I read in the paper. It's more of a, well, you're going to get it anyway, but take the precautions and see if you can minimize it as far as getting sick. So that's about it. So back to you, WA1EXA.
Mark, if you're anyone yesterday, we haven't had you come back after a whole long. I'm going to ask one more time, and I'm going to move on to the next person and come back to you on next story. Okay. Before we continue with J3 on ZG, I see we have another check in. We have for TSC that's here. This is Jerry from Boca Raton. Jerry, I'm checking you in. And the radio station that would like to check in the medical advisory council is your president of our already checked in for any ministry call 88 or call 90. There's no other check-ins for Steve, J3 on CC, go ahead.
AA4FL and the group. This is K3FZT, Steve, in Philadelphia, where mask wearing is pretty much foregone except upon entry to restaurants. But as soon as people sit down, they take it off. Infection rates, I haven't looked at it for almost a week, but it's kind of dropped off the table from 30 odd per 100,000 to around 5, I think. But of course, there's less testing going on. Formally, and more going on in homes. I do really appreciate Keith's comment and curiosity about fourth doses of vaccine. Let me reset here. So I've had 3 doses of Moderna, and because of some concerns in early September, we actually, my wife and I actually got the full dose Moderna, and not the half dose that's been used as the standard booster. So that puts me out past 6 months as of today. frankly, it's my view that antibodies are a poor measure of the effectiveness of this vaccine in managing this illness. And I'm going to count on uh, immune memory cells and those other deeper and more complex aspects of immune competence, at least until we see boosters that include new mRNA for the new strains. I do not see any point in receiving a booster when it's the same mRNA as has been used. And I'm not saying that's a terribly informed view. I am not an immunologist, and as I pointed out to my wife, when I studied immunology in 1972-73, everything that was known about the field fit in a 200-page book in sophomore year of medical school. So there's been a lot learned since, and I have not internalized that knowledge. But that's where I'm sitting at the moment. Other than that, even on a gray day here in southeastern Pennsylvania with the temperature in the 40s, one can see signs of spring. Life is beautiful. Back to you, Jay. This is Steve in the West Mount Airy section of Philadelphia, K3MZ, taking back tonight.
Well, Steve, thank you for the comments, the wisdom, and extending and acknowledging the wisdom of Keith and follow up. Also, the Andy's comments, very meaningful and general. The advantage of having a well-rounded panel that comes from different areas of the country and see things through a different set of eyes. And professional engagements too. Very, very helpful. Thank you to everybody that's participating. I'm glad to have you here. Moving back to the original topic, let's see here, Jerry, and for CSC about this issue. That can participate, right? Go ahead, Jerry.
A4FL in the group. Eve was recommending standby one. I think that there may be a distinction between antibodies per se and what Fauci talks about as neutralizing antibodies. And there may be a distinction between them. The neutralizing antibodies, the duration of their effectiveness is still unknown, and therefore, if I'm looking at this as, okay, I've had 2 basic shots, I've had a booster, I know that there is safety in the vaccination, but I don't know about effectiveness, and until we get more data, I intend to make myself available for the 4th booster shot as soon as it is generally available,
I do know of a few colleagues who have managed to either just walk in and get their fourth shot, or perhaps they've gained the system. But I have no objection to getting the fourth shot until and unless we get really good data as to the duration of the immunity that we have. Therefore, I figure we only get one shot at life, and I've had 4 colleagues, 4 of them, succumb to COVID. I don't want to be the fifth of a group of people that I know closely from my medical experience. And therefore, I will basically, if we use football terminology, I will punt. I will do what's reasonable based on the available information. So that's what I have to contribute this morning, Jay. Back to you, AA4FL and for TSE, not for terribly smart children.
Well, thank you for your input, Jerry. Thank you for being here. In the link that I sent to the Google group, there is a technical advisory group on the virus evolution of COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, and they have certainly a way of tracking a group of people that tracks mutations, evolution, and variants, mostly in a group of experts. And they meet regularly to analyze the impact on the variants and transmissibility of clinical presentation and disease severity and diagnostics and therapeutics to determine whether a given variant constitutes a variant of interest or a variant of concern. So even where some variants of this particular one gives you a suggestion that it's been analyzed and looked at and a decision being made. But the recommendations of this advisory group inform the World Health Organization on global, regional, national prevention and control strategies, and then it goes on and is used by other groups as well. So one of the notations, and this was a question that was just brought up about whether or not to take a booster, is the expert advisory group on COVID-19 vaccine composition. So they do take into account getting the vaccine updated. And there's one on immunization, strategic and technical advisory group for infectious hazards. So it's not just one group of people that are on the periphery analyzing the situation, and it's not one country or part of the world. If you go on the website, you can see all the different people that are involved in what their positions are in medicine organizations, and such. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the next exchange back to the beginning. That's where I am to give your input on how you feel. Is that is something that you feel essentially is valuable or really meaningless because you're in the United States? Go ahead, Keith, and 3 a.m.
Well, I've been following the concept of a fourth shot, and Pfizer and Moderna are both pushing it, particularly for those of us who are over 65 years of age. So I'm just kind of keeping my eye on it for now and looking through these data. Possibly a subject for next week or is the long COVID. The long COVID is also a problem, and according to CDC or HHS.gov, there is guidance on long COVID as a disability under the ADA Section 504 disability. So that may be something we should discuss in the future. But as far as the fourth dose is concerned, I'm just keeping an eye on the data and the reasoning behind it. Another question I have is how many people have seen long COVID in their practice if they're still practicing? This is N3IM back to AA4FL in the group.
Well, thank you for mentioning that. Would you, in subsequent exchanges, if you're going to be here next week, maybe you can lead us in the next, at least in that discussion, not the changes next week. We value that as a subject of long COVID. I certainly, as Dennis is retired, you have to rely on just what's in my circle of friends. And I do have two health professionals that have long COVID, husband and wife, they're viral members. So it's definitely out there. I'm not sure how they were exposed to this from work environments and that one. So as we go through our subsequent roundtable here, please follow up with Keith's questions and comments. And if you're not practicing, at least let us know in your circle of friends if you're familiar with others that have long COVID. So yeah, I'm going to let you go to check in 5 hours. Yeah, let's be back from your ground trust.
The 4FL group and 5RTS. Yeah, I've had at least two patients that have definitely symptoms of long COVID. One actually had COVID encephalitis. She was hospitalized with the encephalitis back in 2020. And it took her fully 6 months to be able to drive and pay bills again. And even now, she's saying that she's just a little slower than she was before, although she has finally resumed all of her previous activities. Other people complain of losing 10, 15% of their capability and just not having the energy that they had before in 5RTF.
Okay, thank you. Let me go ahead and drop just one here for a second. And I'll turn it over to Andy and WJB.
Well, I'm not presently practicing, so I have to throw that out as a disclaimer at the beginning. But I do have probably some corollaries that are very close. And I practice general internal medicine primarily. Did hospital work for all the last 10 years of my 40-year practice history. But also in that career, I had a small side job. I spent about 3 hours a week doing, or 4 occasionally, and that was review disability applications for the Ohio Public Employment Retirement System. And we didn't actually see the patients. We reviewed the evaluations done by other physicians. And of course, the most nebulous thing you always ran into in determining someone's disability are two diagnoses, all of which anybody who's practiced in adult medicine are very familiar with. And that's either fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome. And they kind of correlate to what I hear with long COVID. I mean, there are some more specific symptoms with long COVID, particularly the cardiac issue of it, and to some extent there's documented encephalitis. As you mentioned, Jay, that would certainly make it somewhat different. But the ability or inability to determine somebody's disability with those types of problems is definitely problematic. And, it's one of those things that, it's difficult for the people doing the evaluation. It's difficult for someone like me who is making the final determination in these cases to really follow what to do. And there's not a lot of set data for it. But, so that's not all I have right now. Everybody's making great comments. A lot of really good inductions as well. So particularly Steve's thing about T-cell memory. So I thought that was fantastic. So back to you, Jay, from WJP.
Yes, I agree, Andy. It's wonderful to have everybody participate and give their perception on that to explain their focus all at once. And again, we're also getting additional comments made on the network. Messenger. So Jerry said he had just gotten that up. If you're not familiar with using Messenger, there's a blue window button starting from the left called the AIM window. So when it says yes, if you're above that, you'll be able to monitor it, and he just made some very good points as well as he does in real time. Even when others, are having conversations, they don't have to be relying on just the go around. The conversation being ongoing one. So thank you for stimulating that conversation. And WA1 EXA Mark is negative one. I'll go ahead.
And WA1EXA. Our experience, well, as I said before, is that 4 weeks into it, we still seem to be having pieces of this infection. My wife's complaining right now about a lot of muscle and bone and pain, and I've had basically bouts of some dizziness and things like that. Now, this is all non-specific, as you say. Drop one. I did want to pass along to Steve out there in Philadelphia. You mentioned about not willing to attend a couple of performances. When I did go to the Broadway show, they were demanding masks. They even had enforcers walking up and down the aisles, telling people to put the mask on and put it correct. And they wouldn't let you in unless you were already, you showed proof of vaccination. And the same thing was true on taxi cabs and in the train. You were reminded if it wasn't right or if we didn't have it on. So, WA1EXA, back to you.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you for the observations. Again, I've been out quite a bit myself, and it really depends where I am, how close the people are together, and I mean, obviously in a theater, in close space, but you always have to be smart as to evaluating your risk factors based upon what city you're in and what environment you're in. And, I just want to wear a mask all the time. I have to make a personal decision when it's needed. Common sense needs to be part of the equation. History, Steve, go ahead, Steve.
Sorry for the long pause there. AA4FL in the group, this is K3FZT. I really don't have much of anything to add to the discussion at this point. I follow with interest the reporting of virus found in sewage effluent, and I shake my head at how systematic it is in France and how spotty and unsystematic it is in the United States. But beyond that, I really don't have anything else to offer. I'm enjoying my newly expanded ham shack that got built for me by my wonderful friend, the cabinet maker and finish carpenter, while I was in Hawaii. and I'm enjoying the coming of spring. I wish everyone well. 73 all. I'm going to sign and clear to get a little lunch with the wife. I enjoyed this morning's conversation a good deal. I thought it was really smart and interesting to me. Take care, everyone. 73's all health and happiness. And stay well, because that's what you need to enjoy life, and life is beautiful. K3FZT, I'm clear.
Have a great week. Steve, thanks for being here with us. We look forward to you being with us when your new revenue back next week. And send me an email photo. That would be great. We'll have to see what your Johnny Baker came up with. And certainly need some positive relation of how to do that or House of All Inventors. Well, not personal on the list before we call the next photos. I'm sure he has for TSC, go ahead.
Okay, A4 FL in the group and 4TSC returning. Well, I'm listening to some of the comments made, and I've had some different thoughts about what's going on, and I think basically we're still dealing with the unknown, and we need to get more data to understand what's going on. For example, we have to understand why the subvariant of Omicron is now having a surge in the UK, despite the fact that apparently the UK has been more generally vaccinated than in the US. Maybe it's simply that it's a matter of proximity. People are just closely packed together, and therefore the virus has the opportunity to surge more easily in those kinds of environments, but that's kind of a simplistic view. We also need to know about how children will respond to the vaccine. I think some of the vaccines are assumed to be titrated to the size and weight of the child, and I think that in order to make this thing more empirically available to general populations, that they're going to start allowing children from the age of 2, and I think they're probably going to use a quarter of the original dose. Stand by one. And of course, this is of concern to all of us that have grandchildren or children, what the effects are. And I think that as time goes on, we will eventually have a spreadsheet in which we'll be able to look at what your age and classification of what your risks are and so on, and we'll know more to be able to deal with this. I'm just looking at this thing from a point of view of, well, what makes the most sense to protect the most people? And I think since we're in a transition period while we're developing data, I think maybe the most prudent thing is to, when you're in a discussion with people as to why or why not wear a mask, basically what I've tried to imply is that you're not protecting just yourself. You're protecting, even if you've been vaccinated, other people from disseminating it, and you being a carrier and an unknown carrier, because we just don't know. So I approach it from that kind of approach. When we go to restaurants, we try to always stay outdoors, and I keep a mask on at all times until we're actually eating. And then I replace the mask, and I've been chided by some of my colleagues for it. But basically, the approach is you do whatever you can. It's kind of like the approach of wearing a belt and suspenders so your pants don't fall down. Maybe I'm being overly cautious, but I think that's what we need to do during the transition period. Anyway, thank you for the inviting me in today, Jay. One of these days I'll figure out how to operate NetLogger. AA4FL and 4TSE.
Well, thank you for being here with us, Jerry, and for TSC AA4FL. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us today. I'm going to bring the net to a close and look forward to the discussion about volatility as we continue. So we're available here to lead that discussion, and we'll bring any information that you have forward for us. We'll put that information, of course, on the list there and give everybody a chance. We do have one member of my honor who will be talking about volatility. So hopefully we'll get more members in the week, and then we can use that information to further discuss on that. 7-3, everyone. Thank you for being here. We look forward to next week. And thanks once again to the Quantum Array for allowing the use of technology. 7-3 all. This is AA4 all in the Night Radio Council TV net to a close for this week. See you all next week. Sunday.
And 3 IM 73.